Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Oh, well, if it isn't the Emperor himself.
That's right, baby.
The Emperor has no clothes. Come on, Ed.
That's true. Ed doesn't wear clothes.
Unlike his brother, who occasionally wears the shirt of humiliation.
Tybalt was having the crisis of all time this morning. I think it's because I did some laundry and there were overalls in the dryer, so they kept hitting.
The little metal thingy.
And I was like, Tybalt, it's making everyone upset. It's not a fun noise, but no one else is throwing a fit about it.
But he's baby, so he gets to throw a tantrum about it. Hey, Ed, I'm sick of how you come and stand next to me instead of sitting in my lap like a normal cat.
Story time.
Story time!
I don't get a ton of acne, but the acne that I get is very painful. It's like quite deeply rooted. And I was getting really bad, I think probably hormonal acne on the cheeks, so just like super painful and nasty. So I really got on my like skincare game this summer.
Sure.
And found this like toner that I've been using that really helped. And I haven't really gotten any acne since I started it. But now I have these very painful little pimples on my chin.
Oh no.
And I'm really pissed about it.
And it's just migrated from...
Yeah, they're just sliding down my...
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I'm just really... I guess I don't think I'd do a toner along my jawline. Maybe if I did that would help. But I'm really annoyed about it because they just hurt, And I have can't not touch my face disease. So I'm just like... boop, 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 boop.
Even after the COVID pandemic, I'll still be like...
Yeah. Put my finger fully in my mucous membranes.
Yeah, I'll be on Zoom playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll look at myself. Why am I touching my face right now? But I am.
I often sit in meetings with just like one hand on my cheek.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, wash your face.
Girl, don't touch your face. Girl. Speaking of girl, wash your face.
Yeah. This is Everybody Hates Rand.
Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I am Sally Goodger.
And we're back, baby, to the last battle. You thought you'd seen the end of it, but...
I know, we maybe should have taken a break like in the middle of it rather than one section into it.
Well, but it had to be episode 300 or I wouldn't have felt symmetrical. Somehow.
Yeah, no, maybe we'll just take another break in the middle of it and be like, hello, we're here to rate our favorite Survivor seasons.
We might as well. I'm not recording this podcast during my birthday. God forbid.
Her birthday.
My birthday. Yes. I know you've all been wondering. I am a Libra. That's why I'm so flirty. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing I know about Libras. Okay. Yeah. We're back, baby.
We're back, baby.
Still the first day of the last battle proper. Rand still fighting the Dark One. And we pick up with Edwin, who is heading towards the battlefront, and hilariously has not realized until this point that Gawain is missing. Like, it's not until she goes to ask him to do something that she's like, oh.
Where's that bitch?
He gone. And I'm like, honestly, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, and also, like, Gawain does not have any legs to stand on in any of his sort of psychological arguments, but it is a little sad that his partner did not notice he was missing.
Yeah, it's the last battle, I guess busy, but you do think someone who, like, if I was in a very stressed situation, I'd be like, babe, I need you by me at all times or I'll pass out.
We'd be handcuffed together or something. But no, Gawain's just like, do, and Edwin's like, yeah, whatever.
bye, I really don't need you. And you're like, honestly, I do kind of love that for you, Egg, that you're like, really can't take him or leave him.
Yeah, she's like, I've already replaced you with Edgionid.
In this coming instance, you should just leave him.
You should leave him.
He's doing the stupidest possible thing imaginable. And God, does Brandon Sanderson just...
Horny for it.
Pages of it. And I'm like, okay.
Hey.
Ew. Anyway.
Edwin is like, oh my gosh, I need someone to go look for him before he does something stupid. Bryn's like, yeah, I'll go look for him. And Swan's like, oh, should I go with you? And Edwin's like, no, I want you to go to the, like, command tent and keep an eye on Tuon, the Shanshan Empress. I need a spy on the inside. And it's like, okay, fair enough, I guess. Also, I don't want to have to deal with Swan. Might as well put her in the tent full of annoying people and Matt.
God, poor Matt.
Swan and Edwin exchange very, I can't wait until I retire tomorrow type words.
Yeah.
Where Swan's like, I'm so glad I've left a legacy and that my legacy is you. And you're like, hey, girl. The last battle maybe is not the time to be, like, talking about one's legacy. Haven't you seen any movies? You know?
You're gonna get...
You're boosting yourself on the to be fit list.
The to be fit list.
To be fit or not to be fit.
To be fit, too furious.
That is the question.
To be fit or not to be fit.
Anyway, Edwin gets to the battlefront. She thinks, like, Gawain just, like, went to the battlefront ahead of her to fight and is like, ugh, why would he not just wait for me, you know? But she gets there and realizes, since the whole water bond is not exactly echolocation in terms of pinpointing someone's GPS coordinates, she's like, oh, fuck, he's actually way behind the battle lines, or way behind the enemy lines in the enemy camp. Smash cut to Gawain, who is creeping around with all his magic rings on. Yeah, to set the scene a little bit, the world's on fire.
Yeah.
The world's on fire. Hey now, you're an all-star. Gawain getting his ass
Hey now,
kicked.
I'm a rock star.
Don't even, Gawain. You don't deserve Smash Mouth. My beloved Shrek would never share it with you.
Shrek doesn't believe in toxic masculinity. Maybe he does. Whatever. Different podcast. Yeah, the world is very smoky. Matt's had them fire flaming arrows into the river in order to create like a
smoke
screen. This enables them, Swanee offers them protection, and then eventually they start firing the remaining dragons on the cannons on the enemy camp from like a variety of locations so they can't pinpoint them. So that's on fire. Demandred's also just like launching fireballs, so we are just in a sort of like fiery hellscape, and here's Gawain just like slinking around in the shadows being like, these rings make me feel really weird.
It's so weird. Is this what heroin is? And you're like, hey, I need you to have a brain. Gawain is like, oh, Egg just realized I'm gone, and she is mega pissed. And he smiles about it. He's like fond about it. He says that he found peace with his choice. Once, perhaps, he would have done this for the pride of the battle and the chance to pit himself against Demandred. That was not his heart now. And then he spends the next several paragraphs telling us how, sort of, why he's doing it is for the world, but really it's so that he personally can make a difference in this battle. And it's like, Gawain, I wouldn't say that pride is not in your equation. Like, you are clearly very motivated by glory. And it's fine if you're not, I mean, it's not fine, it's very annoying, but it's fine, theoretically, if you're not self-aware about that.
Yeah.
But the narrative itself does not seem to be self-aware about that. It's contradicting itself.
Yeah.
Multiple times. And it's hard to tell because, you know, if a character says that they feel one thing and then the narrative shows us that they feel another thing, then that's, like, fine. It's the narrative establishing a sort of incohesive character.
Sure, yeah.
But Brandon Sanderson, in particular, as a writer, is not good at showing what anyone is feeling at any given moment. He just ever tells us.
Yeah, and I think we talked a bit about this when in the first chapter we read of Brandon Sanderson. Brandon has kind of a problem of floating between being a distant third person point of view narrator and a very close third person point of view narrator. So by that, which I mean, it's hard to tell if we are very strictly in Gawain's head and Gawain himself is saying this is not my motivation, or if there's a sort of like outside omniscient narrator saying this was not Gawain's motivation. Like that distinction is very difficult in Brandon Sanderson's The Wheel of Time. He seems to need both in order to tell the story, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just makes instances like this where you're trying to pinpoint a character's true motivations in one of their pivotal scenes in the book, like, kind of incomprehensible.
Yeah. Yeah, it of course makes me curious about how Robert Jordan would have done this, because I don't think he had that problem with distinguishing between what characters are showing versus what he's telling us. Because I really struggle with wondering with whether Gawain is intentionally this contradictory character who's telling us one thing and showing us another, or if that's just the narrative beefing it.
Totally.
Because I think there is something interesting about Gawain just telling us one thing and doing another, especially when he's telling us that he's so pure and motivated by chivalry and saving the world and blah, 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 and actually acting incredibly selfishly. That tells us something about a certain type of masculinity. Yeah. That it would be very interesting for this series in particular to be making that point. Yeah. But because the narrative is so unclear, we don't know if that's the point it's making or if the narrative is itself enforcing the point. Yeah. But I think we've said all that about Gawain before, and luckily we won't have to deal with him much longer.
Suffer, bitch. I hope you bleed out slowly.
Gawain notices, as Egg noticed in her point of view, the, like, cracks in the earth that we've been seeing as a result of balefire. Egg does try to, like, channel at them to solve the problem and seems to, like, fix it, but she's like, I don't really know what I did. Which is kind of like, how can you do that, you know?
Yeah, the sort of implication is that she's doing, like, opposite balefire, and you're like, it feels like.
Okay, but, like, I feel like some thought should go into that, besides Egg just, like, sort of waving her hand at the cracks. And then everyone's like, hey, what'd you do? And Edge's like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like, wait.
Yeah, there's, like, we've long passed the point in the series where it's okay for our magical characters to, like, do it by instinct, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
people should not be doing things by instinct. We are not in the, like, very initial elementary stages of magic in terms of that. We are at, like, people should be trying to do something, failing a few times. Yeah. And then figuring it out.
Yeah, applying the scientific method, as it were.
That's what makes it satisfying, as Bill Nye would tell us.
Bill Nye, the science guy.
Science rules. Anyway, Gawain finds Demandred and is like, I'm fully just going to stab him in the face. Unfortunately, Demandred probably has all sorts of, like, magic alarm spells around him, and so is like, hey, you there slinking in the shadows. Gawain just kills his horse without killing Demandred, which I'm like, hey, did that horse do anything to you?
Net negative in society. Negative
in the world. Yeah. Gawain came, he killed a horse, he beefed it.
Yeah. The only thing Gawain did in his short time on Earth was
kill a horse.
Kill a horse.
And lose to Macathon.
Yeah.
Anyway, they start fighting. God only knows why Demandred even
entertains
this. It would have been so funny if Demandred just finger guns blasted him.
Yeah, there seems to be an implication that, one, Demandred references some type of, like, weave that Gawain has on him, and he's like, I'm not, I'm wearing the rings, I don't have a weave. So some implication that perhaps magic
That's what the rings
is
do.
Involved.
Yeah.
And it also seems to be that Demandred has a little bit of a hard time hitting him with the channeling due to this magic weave. At some point, he does just start picking up rocks with air and throwing them at him, which is incredibly funny.
The old Macathon method.
Yeah, but I also feel like Demandred is a much better swordsman than Gawain, which is also
so funny.
Hilarious. Gawain's like, fuck, I wasn't planning on him being good at swords.
I thought I was the best at swords. And Demandred's like,
you're 12 years old.
Demandred's like, I'm 4 million years old.
Yeah. It would have been really funny if Demandred just hopped off his horse and was like...
Yeah.
Like, didn't even have to do a complicated sword move.
He was just like, okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
No, instead we have to do this, like, long sort of duel sequence so that Demandred and Gawain can talk to each other. I never know why men are talking to each other when they're fighting. Pre-fight,
how do you have time?
Yeah. but it's like, middle of the fight, guys? What's the point?
It's the only time they're allowed to bond emotionally.
I guess, yeah. It's sort of the verbal equivalent of kissing with tongue.
Yeah.
Which is what they truly want to do. That's why they're sword fighting. Anyway, Demandred keeps saying his crazy shit about, like, where's the Dragon Reborn? I know he's back there somewhere. And Gawain's like, I'm not his keeper. I don't fucking know. Demandred's like, well, you're his follower. Obviously, he sent you. And Gawain is so resentful of the implication that Rand had anything to do with this decision. So it's like, sure, bestie, you're really over it.
Yeah.
Like you've been telling us all this time. Shut up. Demandred also is like, this is the best general I've ever fought against, so obviously it has to be some old-ass dude.
It has to be Lutheran.
And I'm like, I wish that if this were a movie, we would just smash cut to Matt, like, doing stupid shit.
Yeah,
just juggling to pass the time.
So anyway, perhaps we should...
Circus music. Just the Wii music constantly in his
Matt's
head.
eating a snack pack chocolate pudding.
Oh, yeah.
Looking over his battle map.
Those are his... And a Capri Sun. Those are his rations. Anyway, Demandred stabs Gawain so good that Gawain's like, fuck, I didn't even see that coming. And Demandred's like, yeah, I bet you didn't, loser. And then leaves him there to die, which is such a cool power move.
Yeah, he's like, if you make it out, tell the Dragon Reborn that I want to fight him. And Gawain's like, please just let me die without Rand being a part of this.
Nope. And walks away. And you're like, hey, honestly, served cunt.
Yeah,
Demandred.
he came, served cunt, stabbed Gawain, and he left. And you're like, is Demandred currently my favorite Forsaken? Yes.
But yeah, is he doing absolutely insane shit? Yes. Is he also embodying a toxic masculinity?
Yes.
Yes. But I hate Gawain's toxic masculinity more and for longer, so therefore it's satisfying to see him get beat the fuck up.
Yeah, so Gawain's bleeding out from, like, a gut wound. He manages to get on a horse, which, like,
Wow, second horse you've defiled today. Can't believe
could you leave the horses alone? And also, like, not sure how believable it is to push yourself up and get on a horse after being stabbed in the gut, but you know what? He's got the magic rings, so I'll allow it.
He's got the magic rings. So, Gawain currently dying. Meanwhile, we cut to Fail, currently suffering. She's in camp. Mandevwin, who's their sort of remaining Band of the Red Hand guy, is like, you gotta believe me, those guys are not dark friends. And Fail's like, okay, no one thinks that their friends are dark friends, you know? Calm down. But he's like, please, just think about it. And she's like, yeah, whatever. One of her little scouts is like, hey, check it out. We just found that there's this, like, station out here where the bad guy armies are doing the same kind of thing we're doing, which is like there's a setup for supplies to go through gateways onto the battlefield from wherever they're coming from. And Fail's like, okay, well, bop it, flip it, twist it. Then those gateways lead to the battlefield we're trying to get to. What if we slip through those gateways? And it's like, well, Fail, for the very obvious reason that once you get through the gateways, you're still then behind enemy lines. This is a terrible decision. She's like, we'll have to go around them anyway to get to our guys. And I'm like, yeah, and then you get to your guys.
Yeah, there's a difference between going around enemy lines and being stuck behind enemy lines. It's amazing nobody makes this clarification to her. It also really bothered me that their first thought wasn't like, well, why don't we destroy this outpost and weaken the enemy? You know, I know they don't have like a ton of resources, but like they could have done something.
They could have done some fucking Black Ops shit.
Yeah, like it's time to become a guerrilla operative, Fail, and destroy the enemy's supply camp.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I will simply go further into enemy territory and it will be me,
to deliver
this
the Horn of
11-year-old
Lear.
boy, fighting a bunch of Trollocs.
It's also so frustrating in retrospect, knowing what we know, that the Horn of Lear is no longer connected to Matt.
Yeah.
It becomes a little bit mind-boggling that no one just, like, tries it.
Yeah.
You know, just to be like, hey, maybe.
Will anything happen?
Maybe, because you know what I could really use right now? A fucking SWAT team of...
How fun would it be if it was like, it's
Heroes of the Horn.
It's Fail, Arthur Hawkwing, Oliver, guerrilla warfare, all across the Blight.
All these cool-ass people who are just like, yeah, we're gonna take out this
A fucking
place.
supply camp.
I was thinking
yeah.
it would be really funny for Fail to be the
Yeah.
Hornivaleer's horn sounder.
Yeah, as someone who started as a hunter for the horn. And again, a satisfying character loop.
A narrative arc that ends in a satisfying way. Would you believe it?
Ripley's, believe it or not.
I know. Anyway, Perrin wakes up in the hospital.
Bearlane is there and she's like, don't worry, I took precautions this time. And by which she means Uno is
I have a chaperone
sitting.
to make sure that I don't molest you in your sleep. And Perrin's like, what?
It's like, okay, you could just not assault me.
Yeah, you could also make different choices. Also, there is already a chaperone in that there's a wise one there healing him.
Yeah, why does
this was
Uno
just
need to be here?
Brandon Sanderson trying to be like, I want Uno here.
With
Anyway,
a broken arm.
yeah, they're like, Perrin, you have been unconscious for a while. It's a miracle you're even alive, and you need to be unconscious for longer. And Perrin's like, by God, you're fighting. And they're like, no more fighting for you, baby boy. And he's like, but Fail. And they're like, she is fully MIA.
Yeah, probably
Good
dead.
night.
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And Gaul.
Yeah, we also, I guess I didn't clock this, that Gaul's still
Gaul's still there.
in the dream world.
And Perrin's on the verge of death, presumably partly because of being in the dream world for so long.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know?
Gaul's built different though, so
Gaul
we hope
is
he's
built
okay.
different,
Yeah.
so like, and that's the only narrative
Yeah.
thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, Perrin goes back to sleep. Snooze town.
What a fun thing
yeah.
for one of our heroes to be doing at the last battle.
Just checking in on him. Then we get to what might be the most rancid Andrel point of view of all time. It's just him and Pevara talking. They're not, like, doing anything interesting.
Yeah.
Things that happen in this section. We find out that they have accumulated in their little group Theodrin. You may or may not remember her from all of our White Tower arcs. She's one of the accepted that got graduated to Aes Sedai alongside Nynaeve and Elaine to make Edwin's decision look less nepotism-y. She's the nice one between her and
Fowlane.
Fowlane or whatever the
Fowlin.
fuck. Yeah. Anyway, she's with them and is probably gonna heal bond one of the guys. I don't know. Andrew and Pevara are like, should we talk about how you did magic through me? And also, finally, someone brings it up. Pevara's like, hey, how come you can travel without following any of the rules of traveling, like learning the ground? And Andrew's like, it must be my talent. And that's the last we'll hear of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it pisses me off that we are in a world wherein the rules of magic have been so rigidly established. But meanwhile, we have this thing called talents that Robert Jordan more or less used with integrity in terms of like, yeah, some magic people have an additional magic thing that doesn't really fall under any of the other magic rules. Like foretelling, what does that have to do with any
Yeah.
channeling? But it also like makes sense from a sort of archetypical standpoint, you know? There are seers out there. There are people who are magic in these ways, who can see or sense things.
Yeah.
In the world beyond what they should be able to. But Brandon Sanderson is taking it and is just like, yeah, talents are like X-Men mutations. You can just do magic better.
Yeah, it sucks because it felt like Robert Jordan, like you said, was using it with integrity as such, where like talents were above and beyond the magic system. Like, even though Avienda's is very like handy, like her ability to just like pick up a magical item and know what it is isn't really related to channeling. It's just like above and beyond.
Yeah, similarly, like Egg has this talent to go into the world of dreams.
Yeah.
That's also not related to channeling. There are people who can do that who can't channel.
Yeah, exactly. But Brandon's using it to completely break the magic system for convenience. He's not doing it to be additive. It's just like it's more convenient for Andrel to be able to channel water out of a mountain stream in order to fill Pevara's water bottle, her Awala water bottle on the battlefield.
Her Stanley cup.
Pevara's walking around with a huge white Stanley cup.
Yeah, and like all the fixins on it.
Yeah.
You know how those TikTok girlies will be like, yeah, here's my Stanley cup, but it has 6 containers around it. Carrying breath mints and whatever.
Yeah. You know, like have you heard of this thing called a purse? Crazy.
The most crazy thing about this is that Andrel very casually says that spring water reminds him of Jane, presumably this is a reference to Jane Farstrider, and this is just like, okay, Andrel knew Noel?
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? And also, why?
Yeah.
Is this just to sort of like boost Andrel's sort of relevance in the narrative even more?
Yeah, Brandon just wants so badly for Andrel to be the coolest person in the world. And that includes knowing Noel, the actual coolest person in the world.
Who we never knew was the coolest person in the world. Noel was cool based on the fact that he was a weird old man.
Yeah.
Who just waltzed into the narrative, saved Matt from assassination, and then was like, I'm adopting you.
Yeah. And we're like,
okay.
hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Here's Andrel being like, I do everything, and then he does the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. First of all, he's like thinking about Pevara, and he's like, she's not pretty.
She's ugly. But I'm a wise man, and I know that looks don't matter.
And
I'm an enlightened man.
Yeah, I'm an enlightened man, so I know it doesn't matter if someone's attractive or not. So it's like, he's first of all is like, she's incredibly ugly and I don't find her attractive. But more importantly, she's really solid and sturdy and dependable.
Yeah. Like a horse.
He specifically says like an old piece of leather.
Yeah. And Pevara's like, hey, are you comparing me to a piece of leather in your head? Because remember, I can hear your thoughts. And Andrel's like, maybe. And it's like, the fact that Pevara calls it out is like, I guess Brandon Sanderson trying to be like, it's a silly fun moment. Look how Andrel is so awkward and cringy in his romance. He's just like the rest of us. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to that.
There are so many ways we could have just not written this. Andrel could have been like, wow, Pevara is really attractive to me. And it could have just been a moment about how he finds her really pretty and lovely and smart and dependable.
The thing about falling in love with someone is that you're not necessarily like thinking constantly, well, I guess I'd rate them on a scale from 1 to 10, objectively a 7, you know? Or a 4 or whatever. You're just like, this is a person I have feelings for, and therefore they are beautiful to me.
Exactly.
Like, feelings change your perception. Da-da-da-da-da. You're not constantly like, well, maybe men are like this. Maybe they're constantly like, well, she's only a 9.
She's actually like a 4, but given the circumstances,
I'll go for it. And it's like, okay, shortcut to make me hate your male narrator.
Yeah.
Great. As if you're positing that people actually think like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that Pevara is just like, okay, I guess that's romantic, and it's like, what?
Girl,
in what
I
world?
would be like unbonded, unfollowed, blocked.
And I'd be like, hey, we
gone.
gotta end this.
I'm hunting Mazrim by myself. Get fucked.
This is so stupid. You're so stupid.
Fucking Andrel, man.
Fucking Andrel, man. He is such a loser. Anyway, then we switch to Rhuarc's point of view as he's just like going around Thakandar kicking ass. He's like, hey, surprise, surprise, the whole strat to just hold position ain't really panning out. And our battle lines are broken and everyone is just running around fighting. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It works for us. The only thing that like happens is that as Rhuarc is going around assassinating people willy-nilly, Graendal comes upon him and does channeling to make him fall in love with her. So now Rhuarc is joining her little coterie, which includes several people beyond the one we've seen. She's got like a few Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
Several wise ones.
Yeah.
A guy with a spear. I don't know. So like, that's sad for Rhuarc, but also incredibly funny because now we have the Graendal certified Rhuarc is a hottie
Yeah.
metric.
Yeah. We can all go to bed tonight knowing that we were correct.
Like, we've been new,
Yeah. But it's nice to be validated, you know?
it's nice to be validated by Grendal's insane
Yeah.
standards for who she collects.
Yeah.
Serial killer style.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
It's
you're
like, okay, yeah.
Well, Rhuarc is a mega babe.
Rhuarc is hotter than Avienda.
Yeah.
You'll love to see.
Graendal was like, oh, Avienda, no. Rhuarc,
Ugh.
yes. He meets the DILF factor.
Yeah, that old man hot factor.
Yeah.
Stacy's dad has got me down bad. Rhuarc, you hottie. And then we flip to Rand, who's like, here's the utopia that I've crafted. It's so beautiful. We won the last battle. There's a memorial. Now, I'm back in the Two Rivers. This is Utopia, Two Rivers. So we've got Perrin's great-granddaughter or whatever running the show. He's like, and the most important place in town is a school. And I'm like, I feel like Rand's obsession with schools might have something to do with the fact that he was raised as a farm boy and didn't get to go to school.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Is it just like an unfulfilled childhood dream? I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
If you couldn't go to school but you wanted to go to school, that would be sad. But yeah, he's like, schools are most important, which is clearly like, Brandon being like, in an ideal society, education would be
innovation.
The most important thing. People would be constantly learning and growing and blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to like pick apart the standards of utopia. This is a fine thing for Rand, at least, to believe, given that the narrative has already established how much he likes schools.
And the Dark One is like, mid.
Yeah, the Dark One's like, mid. Also, you're bitchless. Also, I hate you. And you're like, what?
Excuse me?
The Dark One's just like, this place is weak. It's built on lies. It's flawed. People still die and shit. And Rand's like, well, it's better. And the Dark One's like, well, it's not perfect, so shut up.
Mid.
Yeah, mid. And then he's like, I'll show you something good. And eats Rand's little utopia vision.
Like Pac-Man.
Yeah, that's the Dark One, is Pac-Man.
That would be so funny, though, if Rand walked into the Dark One's psyche and he was just a little round man.
I mean, it would be interesting if the Dark One had anything, any sort of motivation, like hunger, that we could relate to, beyond just being like, yeah, I'm evil. What about it? Yeah. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? What are our... So the Dark One continues to be uninteresting. His little feud with Rand and their sort of dreamscape continues to be largely uninteresting.
Yeah.
It's just the Dark One being like, hey, here's a bad world that I like. And Rand being like, I don't like that. And Rand being like, here's a good world that I like. And the Dark One's like, I don't like that either. And it's like, okay, what are you guys proving to each other?
You're at odds?
You're fundamentally going to
Crazy.
disagree on what the world should look like.
Who knew that light and dark were incompatible in this universe where they were set up to be incompatible?
Yeah, we're not making much headway here in terms of, like, the fight between the two of you. Because it's not like you're going to roll a high enough persuasion check and the Dark One's going to be like, you got me.
Yeah.
I guess I will let you have your special paradise world. It's beautiful after all,
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, so what's the point of, like, showing each other these things?
Yeah.
Is it just, like, a willpower thing of enforcing their will upon one another to establish these little dreams? I find that boring.
Yeah.
I already know that Rand is an incredibly willful, stubborn person, and I am going to assume that the Dark One, a cosmic entity, also has a strong will.
Yeah, it also just, in terms of, like, fantasy canon, and we've talked about the place that willpower holds in the fantasy genre before, where, like, willpower is the end-all, be-all. Like, you can lack skills, you can lack strength. As long as you have willpower, you have everything that you need in order to succeed. And it's just kind of, like, it works in, like, shonen anime because it's Naruto, and it's kind of
believe it.
It's unself-serious and also very self-serious about it at the same time. So it's, like, endearing. But in a book about cosmic forces, I'm like, okay, what else do we have in this fight where I've been led for the last 13 and a half books to see you building your skill set and all of these things. And it's just about, I don't know, your mind, your willpower specifically.
Oh, yeah, I want some depth here of not just will, but of imagination and intellect. I don't know. I don't really know what I want, but...
Yeah, and, like, this is the point to get philosophical, like, but in a, I don't know, different way, you know?
We will get philosophical with Rand and the Dark One later. In this...
Intrigued.
In this section. So I guess we'll get our fix then, and with that in mind, these sort of two scenes are establishing something, I suppose. And I guess we'll talk about whether it has laid a groundwork that is worth it in any way. As of right now, I'm inclined to say no, but maybe with further context, we'll change our minds.
This is the Wheel of Time. When has context ever helped any of us?
So true. Yeah, in terms of, like, seeing, as we talked about last time, in terms of, like, seeing visions of alternate realities and blah, 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 that's a very, like, Wheel of Time thing to do, especially in the early series. But the thing about those, like, alternate visions, those alternate reality visions, is that they should surprise us and reveal something about the characters having them, and reveal something about the world at large. And these first two visions, at least, are not doing that. These are exactly what we would expect from the Dark One and Rand, in terms of, here's the ideal scenario, you know?
Yeah.
As we also talked about with the last scene, and how the Dark One is not a surprising force of evil. He's very conventional.
He's just like a little gremlin who wants to destroy everything.
He's just sort of Pac-Man about it.
Yeah, he's Nega Pac-Man.
But that's where we left off in terms of the last battle.
That's where we'll leave them.
We'll read another few points of view in the next section, and we'll just keep doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Let's see. In this chapter, we had Egg doing mysterious channeling into cracks. Gawain being her cringe fail loser frat boy boyfriend. Fail missing the mark completely in terms of how she can contribute to the last battle. Perrin waking up from a nap and abandoning his best friend who has no magic powers in the world of dreams. Rhuarc getting DILF-Certified by Graendal and
Stamps him on the forehead.
Stamps him on the forehead. And Rand showing the Dark One his most favorite special magic boy school for special boys.
It's the Black Tower, but better.
It's the Black Tower, but not
But I didn't fuck it up this time.
But this time I did it right.
Yeah, so our heroes are not doing much in the way of heroism at the moment.
Disasters everywhere you look.
Fires everywhere that we've got to put out. So that's what we'll return to.
I can't believe 2 pages of this, 3 pages of this was Perrin waking up and being like, wow, I feel like shit. And everyone being like, go back to bed, Perrin.
Yeah, what did that do? How did that help us? Cringe fail is right. This whole section was pretty cringe.
Okay. I gotta go take the trash out. I forgot.
Yeah. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song. Thanks to our beloved patrons on Patreon and our followers on social media.
You got it.
You got a sign off for us?
Yeah. To keep up with sort of the cringe fail disasters of this episode, I have a friend who works in accounting at a nonprofit, and she texted me and another friend today showing the wage gap, like she in their accounting software, their wage gap between men and women.
Ooh,
the average salary for a woman at this agency was $49,000, and the average salary for a man at this agency was $70,000. So if you clock that correctly, that's a $21,000 wage gap between men and women at this agency.
Don't you love to be alive? More cringe. Also cringe. This is the Dark One's fantasy.
This is the Dark One's fantasy is like workplace inequity. He gets really close to the microphone. Workplace inequity.
Imagine it. Can you imagine? Okay, everyone.
Okay.
Sit with that one, I guess.
Bye.
Bye.